Okay, I have a few minutes between things right now, and okay, I'm gonna do my live now. I usually do it around 5, give or take like 4 hours, so I'm totally within the window. Anyway, last week someone asked me a question. I think it was Hans, and he wasn't really clear about his questions. So, and it was toward the end of my live last week. So I was like, just send me an email sometime during this week, and I'll think about it and answer it next week, right? What's up, B? Early stream. So anyway, he sent me an email a couple days ago. Hey, Hans, what's up? Yeah, that was you who sent me the message, right? Anyway, he sent me a message, and the basic gist of his question was, Jaimie, can you explain brain code? Which is, yeah, thanks for picking my brain code question. Well, yes, you're the only one who sent me a question this week, so I guess I'm picking it. Plus, it's a pretty good question. Okay, so he asked me to explain brain code, which I've mentioned in some previous videos years ago. I haven't said anything about it in a while, I don't think. So anyway, the simplest way to explain brain code is just to say it's the language your brain natively uses, like the language that's just built into your brain. So if you're a computer coder at all, you probably know what machine code is. So like different machines have code, like languages built into them. And if you have to program one of these machines, if you have to program it in machine code, oh, it's such a pain, because all the math will be in like hexadecimal instead of 10 digits, and the language is like XRFB269, and you just like, it makes no sense. So you get a computer program that translates it into like C++ or some other Englishy kind of language, and it makes it much easier for you to type your junk in and program the thing, and then the computer program translates it into the machine code so that machine can run efficiently. Because the machine doesn't run efficiently if it's running off of a code that's not its native code, because it has to constantly translate everything it's doing, and it wastes a lot of CPU power doing that. So the machine runs much more efficiently on its own native code, the machine code. And your brain, like any other computery kind of machine, I'm not saying your brain is the same as every other computer, but your brain is basically a computer. It has its own native code that you're born with. If you weren't born with it, you wouldn't be able to think about anything until you were taught language. But you can think about things before you have language. Now, then we go to school. And one of the things that we learn in school is how to think in English or Dutch, German, French, depending on where you come from, of course. But I'm just going to speak from my own experience. I grew up in an English-speaking country, Canada. Well, there's French there too. Okay, look, whatever written language is in your country, that's you. But for me, I learned English. So school pounds it into your head. You got to learn English, and this is how you think. You think in English, and you think in math. You think in math, and you think in English, because these are things you can write down so you can convey the information to other people. And I'm sure this varies depending on the school, but I was mostly taught that if you can't communicate information, then it's wasted. It's just wasted in you. If you can't convey the information, it's a waste. So it's basically, I was basically taught that my own brain code, the machine code inside my head is useless, is worthless, is not good for anything, because you can't communicate it, right? It's only useful if you can translate it into English or into math or something where you can write it down. Now, there is definitely a big advantage to being able to communicate ideas, right? It's great. But there's a disadvantage to limiting yourself to thinking that way. Because if you think always in English and math, then the language largely defines what you can think and how you think about things, and just your whole approach to all kinds of things, based on the words available, based on the words based on the phrases that you hear over and over, based on all this stuff. It's very limiting. It limits the way you can think. And another big downside of thinking in English and math and all that stuff is that it's just not efficient for your brain. Like, it's not your native brain code. So your brain is constantly having to translate, into English. And if you do it long enough, and people learn for over a decade in school to do this, you just stop thinking in brain code at all. And often you're just yelled at if you're thinking in brain code, because the teacher will say, "What are you thinking? What's the information?" And you're just like, and then you get scolded because you can't communicate. You need to learn to communicate. It's basically just reinforcing this. You need to think in English, because that's what we can control, and that's how you can communicate. You're not allowed to have any thoughts of your own. And that's another big downside of it. To really have your own thoughts and to grab ideas out of your own mind, you have to use your own brain code. It's like the direct connection into imagination. And imagination is massively important, which is why it's one of the 8 adventure builder virtues. Imagination is how you get new ideas. See, if you're always thinking in English, then you can only think of things that there's a word for. And if there's no word for it, if you're so trained to only think in English, you'll be like, "Oh, that must be nothing. Let me get rid of that," and either get rid of it or warp it, and you kind of censor it into something that is English that I can then communicate, and then it's valuable. And everything else throws away. So how do you even recognize what this brain code is? Oh, okay. I'll get to your guys' comments after. I got to get through this though, because to be totally honest, when I'm thinking about things in brain code, it is really difficult to communicate it. So if I'm thinking about things, if I'm using brain code, I'm kind of halfway using brain code and halfway thinking in English so I can speak. But it's really hard to kind of go between the two, because they're totally different languages. But okay, say you're talking to someone and you're trying to describe something, and you get to a point where you're like, what's the word for that? What's the word? I know the word. See, you have the idea even though you don't have the word, right? That means the word isn't the idea. You don't need the word to have the idea. You already have the idea. But at that point, you still know that there's a word for that idea. You just don't remember the word. So take it one step further, and say you have an idea in your head, and you think, there just is no word for this. I can't communicate. There is literally no word for this. You're probably using brain code right there. When you have an idea that's just you've never heard anything about it. It's just something that has been produced inside your own brain, and there's no word for it. You have no idea how to communicate it. That you're probably using brain code right there. And brain code is it's like connecting with your subconscious. So I'm pretty sure I explained this better in a previous video years ago, but basically, you've got your kind of your upper brain level here, where you have all these ideas that you can communicate, and then below that is your subconscious and your instincts and all that stuff, and all that stuff. Largely, people call it the background. It's the subconscious. It's like underwater. It's stuff that you don't really have access to. But if you can think in brain code, you totally have access to all that stuff, and you can think in your subconscious area and do really amazing things. And this is where I go whenever I'm trying to design a new invention. So if I'm trying to come up with new ideas, there's no point in trying to talk to me, because I'm gone. I'm not thinking in English. I can't communicate the ideas. I have to, I'm processing things about 500 times faster than I could do if I was thinking in English or numerical math or something like that. Now that's another thing. I was saying that if you're thinking in math, you're not thinking in brain code. But brain code has its own math. It's got. It's hard to explain. Say I'm trying to divide something. Instead of using the numbers, I'll just bloop and take it out into the chunks and just almost visually do it. But I don't even have to visually do it, because it's just got this language built in. Okay, let me this is how I've tried to explain it before. Like the really basic explanation of what brain code is and like how you get there. So think of a tree. So when you think of a tree, you think of like a picture of a tree and leaves and maybe some words, tree and leaf and bark and roots and ground and air, and you kind of get images of all this stuff. Well, what if you take out the words and the pictures and take away all the bark and the trees and it just clear everything out? And you've basically wiped out almost all the information, but you can still have the idea of a tree in there. It's like, but it's just this little wispy idea. It's like barely there. And from that little tiny speck of information, you can get all kinds of stuff. You can get the picture of the tree. You can get the word. Like you can go all these other places. But when you break it down and get rid of all that stuff, you still have this tiny glimmer of a thought, of an idea, of a tree. Just the most basic thought. That's brain code. And when you can think in that way, I mean, it is basically like clearing out all of the extraneous information and getting down to the most basic pieces. And when you clear out all that stuff, it's like, it's really hard to explain. It's like you lived your whole life in a fog and then the fog just clears. And it's like, holy crap. Like I can see so much now. Because you take out all that extraneous information that we've been taught to stuff into your head and have all these superficial associations and languages and stuff, which are useful in certain circumstances, in a lot of circumstances. But if you just want to process something in your head, move all that stuff aside, put all that stuff out, just you're not dealing with that. You're just dealing with the most basic pieces of information. And it takes up so little information so little processing space inside your head and so little memory that you can now have, instead of just tree, you can have like 1,000 different items, 1,000 different thoughts all in your head at the same time, and you can do things with them and like figure things out, and you can come up with ideas. This is really hard to explain if you've never done it, but like, when you've got the idea of a tree, it's just this little tiny nothingness, but it's kind of got a shape and a flavor, kind of, and then like house will have its own kind of shape and flavor, but it's almost nothing, and like spoon, like it'll all these like almost non-existent pieces of information once you get rid of all the images and stuff. And once you start being able to kind of see what these most basic ideas look like, what the most basic brain code looks like, you can generate new stuff. It's sort of like having an alphabet. Like say I have an alphabet, I've got A, B, C, D, 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 all the things. I could conceivably just say, hey, what if I took an O and instead of putting a line here to make a Q, what if I just put a line up on the top and just like this there's none there. And I just made a new thing. And if you're in brain code, that actually means something. Like it's an actual idea that is not a thing necessarily, but it's an idea that you can then translate up into something that relates to reality. And this is how you really connect with imagination. Like I was saying, like you get an incredible access to your imagination if you can figure out how to think in brain code, how to think in your subconscious, how to just get right down in there. Another thing that's really cool, kind of cool. I thought it was going to be cooler than it ended up being, but this is going to sound crazy, but you can read other people's brain code. And the magical explanation would be that somehow there's some kind of ESPN going between brains and, and you can like connect with other people's subconscious. Maybe there's some kind of signal. I don't know. The more kind of mundane, grounded explanation would be just that all our brain code is very similar. Like we all basically have the same brain code. We're born with it. It's evolved over a long period of time. We're all born with basically the same brain code. So if you look at someone else, you only need a few cues, like tone of voice, the way they're holding themselves, their expressions, like their posture. You just like you get a few cues, like particularly if you look at their face or their eyes or something, and because you basically are the same, you can tell what they're thinking, and that's a really awesome experience when you can connect with someone who also has either some connection to their own brain code, or they at least are not resisting it constantly. Because one of the problems, one of the downsides of brain code, like if you're thinking in brain code, is it's very difficult to communicate with other people. Like you have to stop and be like, okay, I have to take like 250 miles of information and condense it down so that I can actually communicate it. So and it's like it's really difficult. It takes a lot of energy, and you end up like stopping and stuttering and being like, wait, hold on, let me just condense this more and turn it into English, and so when you're thinking in brain code, if you're on your own, you can do a lot. If you're working with someone else, it can be very frustrating because no one will understand what the hell you're talking about. Like you can say to them, hey, if you do that, that's going to go wrong. But if you do this, this is going to go right. And they'd be like, what? How do you know that? Why? What's your explanation? And you're just like, oh God, the explanation. Okay. Well, I looked at it through brain code, and this is the answer. And it's going to take me 2.5 hours to try to explain it. Like people will call it their instincts a lot of times. Although a lot of times people actually screw that up because they get all like egomaniacal and think they have instincts they don't have, whatever. But anyway, if you can work with someone else who is kind of open-minded and has a generally positive attitude, you can kind of see what they're thinking and what their motivations are, and how to work with them. You can kind of do that with anyone, but one of the problems with thinking in brain code is that you end up getting access to like everyone around you. Like you can kind of read the brain code of everyone around you, and it can drive you crazy, actually. You kind of got to block it out because people are crazy today, and people are so fighting against their own nature and just resisting, and they're so aggressive and angry all the time, frustrated, But if you can work with someone who's just like, kind of chill, you can really connect with them on a brain code level and say, okay, let me go into my subconscious and just think in brain code and read their brain code. And it's really awesome when you can get that connection. And a lot of times people will do this like accidentally. I shouldn't say a lot of times, occasionally. And, it's like when you're working with someone else and you just kind of end up in this groove where they know what you're doing and you know what they're doing, and you don't know exactly why this is working so well, but somehow you just got into this groove, like you've connected on a subconscious level, like you're brain coding, That's the basic gist of brain code. I could talk about it for hours, and it's like being able to think in brain code is, I would say, by far the most valuable mental skill I've ever gained out of anything, by far, because it applies to anything. Like I can apply brain code to any problem and find answers better than I can any other way. Now, I don't always use it. In fact, a lot of times I don't use it because when I'm working with other people, it gets very frustrating knowing the answer and laying out the plan before someone, and them just getting frustrated and angry, like, why do you know this? Well, how maybe my idea is better? And then they're just like, they just get crazy, and it's like, all right, forget all that. Let's just do it the dumb way, And not everyone's like that, but like that is basically how we're taught to think in like the top of our brain, not physically the top, but the most upper part. We're not taught to think in brain code at all, which would be amazing, because you can connect with people in a way that you can't connect any other way. All right, so that's the basic gist of that. And I just realized YouTube changed some stuff here. This is a different format. Whatever, it's basically the same though. Hey Jay, let's see. I think brain code was mentioned in Tales of Jaimie 005. Sounds about right to me. I don't know. Hey, what's it going on, Jeff? Klondike, how's it going? What do you think about ChatGPT for writing computer code? I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Well, I think automation is overdone. I think we've just way overdone automation. And the thing is, if we just keep getting computers to do things for us, pretty soon there's no reason for us to be here at all. The computer's just doing it all. Then what are we? Do we just sit around and just get fed by these computers who just take care of us like we're a bunch of babies? Yeah, I kind of more want to go the other direction. Less automation, less programming of computers. And I love computers. I mean, I think they're super useful, and programming things to do amazing stuff is super cool. But I think we've definitely overdone it. Like, we're, to a large degree, humans are giving up they're giving up their own lives. Like, people aren't living their own lives because it's easier to just get a computer to do it, which is insane, because like trying to make it easy shouldn't be the goal of life. Like, if you really want easy, just die. It's the easiest thing in the world, right? Just be dead. You don't have to do anything. You're just dead. Like, that's the answer to making it easy. Like, if you're going to be alive, don't you want to do things and accomplish stuff? Or are you just stuck in like the 9-to-5 job where it's like, okay, I must accomplish this. How's the fastest way I can do this so I can get my paycheck and go home? Well, the chat GPT can do it. Okay, go do it. Or just automate anything so I can get out of here and go home as fast as I can. And then I can get in my car and drive as fast as I can to get home and then sit there and then just watch TV. And then the next morning, go as fast as I can to work and get the work done as fast as I can, and then just go home again. Like, why? I don't get it. Like, what's the point of that? Like, just going through life, just trying to get everything done so you can just go away. Like, there's no point in living then, So I'm much more for less computerization, less programming, less automation, more human do-it-yourself. I think it would be kind of cool to have like a diverging species of humans, which is like kind of more on the Neanderthal track, where we still rely on our hands and our muscles to do stuff. Not that we can't use a computer or technology and stuff. It's just we don't rely on that for everything, It's like we're selective about it. Like, I could get a machine to do this, but you know what? I really could do it myself. And if I did it myself, I would be a stronger human being when I'm done, mentally and physically. So I'm gonna do it my damn self, like that kind of person. And who knows? Maybe there will be a divergence like that, because a lot of the human population is going directly for automation and sitting down and doing nothing and just being entertained and blah, blah, blah. And there's got to be, I mean, obviously me, and there are other people who are just totally like, I don't want to do that at all. I want to do things. Like, I want to physically do things. I want to get sore and then get stronger. And I want to have cuts and scrapes and, near-death experiences. I mean, not all the time, but, stuff happens. Like, I want to live. I don't want to just be alive. Like, I want to live. All right, was that enough of a tangent on that question? All right, what were we going on about here? Do you have an inner monologue? I only asked because it said that not everyone does. Well, it depends. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. If I'm not around people for a while, I don't have any inner monologue. Yeah, basically my inner monologue is figuring out how to say things to people. So, I have a pile of kids here. So if I'm by myself and doing something that's not using a lot of brain power, I might just like focus on what I'm doing and just do the best job I can and, try to use my muscles better, do faster and get stronger and all this stuff. Or I might turn my brain on to thinking about, okay, so my kids did this and I yelled. Is there a better way to react to that? How can I communicate with my kids better? What can I say? Or what kind of activities can I do to kind of get us better connected and stuff? So yeah, I mean, sometimes I have an inner monologue and sometimes I don't, but generally my inner monologue only has to do with communicating with other people. Or if I'm going to do a video like this, like before I turned on the button, I like put my tablet here and I was like, typed in my title and whatever. And I was like, wait. Before I hit the live button, let me think about what I'm going to say for a second. Then I inner monologue for a couple minutes. And I was like, all right, I think I basically got the gist of what I'm saying. Or if I was going to give, a more formal address to people, I might spend, like a lot more time inner monologuing. Like sometimes I'll do that when I'm driving to town because it's, a few hours, couple hours, depending on which boat I take, of just driving, just going straight. Not a lot to think about. Sometimes I'll draw pictures or just, check out the scenery. But sometimes I'll be like, okay, there's a video I want to make and I have something I want to talk about. So let me run through it in my head for the next hour and a half and kind of figure out what I want to say. And then I'll have an inner monologue. Yeah. But yeah, definitely not always. Okay, my one inner monologue that I have sometimes is this. It's just like a hum. It's like a machine hum. That's like kind of how I imagine it. Well, I sort of imagine it a little bit like, the Starship Enterprise. It's got those warp engines and they're like, but when it's just cruising, it's just kind of like there's always this ship sound of just machine going, kind of like that a little bit, but it's like a specific frequency that's just like, yeah, it's just like, it's just like the I'm going frequency. It's like my metabolism is up to this level and so yeah, I often just have this tone, the kind of relaxing and energizing me. And then if I need to do something more strenuous, my inner monologue will often be more like, just like nonstop, just screaming. I don't even want to do it as loud as it is, but it'll just be like this screaming in my head. And sometimes like it just kind of comes on itself and I'm like, cool. But sometimes I'm getting real tired and I'm like, oh man, I gotta get myself going. All right, what do? And I gotta force this screaming in my head. And it's just like kind of, it like turns up all my metabolism, even if I'm tired or hungry or whatever. It's just like, all right, turn it up, let's go. Oh, apparently I could talk about inner monologues all day. How about thinking in sigils? Oh crap, what's a sigil? Is a sigil just like a symbol, right? Okay, I'm gonna have to look up what a sigil is, but I think a sigil is just like a symbol, which would just be like a written language. It's the same thing as thinking in English. Like if you're thinking in brain code, there is nothing I could not express in any written or drawn way what an idea looks like in brain code. Although I think, the Impressionist painters were kind of doing that, like in the abstractionists, you got to go back into a bit of art history here. But I think a lot of that had to do with trying to take a canvas and express an idea. Jackson Pollock, he did the drippy slobber paintings. Like I think a lot of the idea of what he was trying to do was trying to be like, okay, let's take out all the objects. Let me try to express just like an intangible idea that it's not an object, it's not a physical object, it's not a thing, it's not even a feeling, or it's like not anything I could really communicate, but let me see if let me try to do my best on this canvas. And you can look at it and it's kind of like, I don't know what that is, but it's a thing. Yeah. Dude, this math reminds me of this autistic genius that adds numbers based on shapes, cresting new shapes. Oh, wait, is that supposed to be cresting or creating new shapes? That's cool though. The brain code that can be spoken is not the brain code. Totally true, man. Yeah, like if you come up with a new idea and there's no word for it, to try to communicate that idea, it might take you like an hour and a half of trying to like come at it from different directions. It's like, it's over there, it's right over there. And the person's like right there? It's like, no, it's further. Well, how far? Okay, let's come at it from this way. It's like right there. Okay, if we cross-reference and triangulate, wait, how many dimensions do we have to look at through this? And it's like, you can't really pinpoint what it is, but if you get someone open-minded enough and you can communicate well enough, you can kind of connect with their brain code and get them to see the idea in some way. But if they don't understand like what brain code is or like have any connection to it, they won't really get it. But if you have an open-minded enough person, they can kind of understand, even though you can't really communicate it. And the truth is, you can't really communicate anything. Like you can, whenever I'm saying all these English words right now, right? And you could understand these words in 1,000 different ways. But if I keep reiterating certain ideas with my words, you can kind of narrow it down more precisely, the ideas I'm trying to convey. And some ideas have been just reiterated so much that, a road, if I say a road, you know what a road is, right? But a road could be a lot of different things, even if like most people, you understand that if you say a road, most people will think of a paved thing that cars drive on, even though a road could be like 1,000 different things. A road could be a lot of different things. It could be a metaphorical road. It could be a literal road. It could be a road for cars. It could be a road for giraffes. I mean, it could be a road through the sky. It could be, there are a lot of different things. But basically, anytime you're communicating, you're definitely hugely reliant on the other party, the listening party, to fill in a lot of blanks. What are we talking about? Yeah, the brain code that can be spoken is not the brain code. Yeah, nearly all networks have nodes. The warp and the wolf in biblical are talking. I think you mean talking about the strings and the web connections. Nearly all networks have nodes. I see the wolf. I never read the Bible, so I don't know. Brain code is all about self-educating. You absolute genius. Brain code. I mean, the way I really figured out how to use brain code is I had to unlearn everything I learned in school. And I don't remember exactly when this was. I don't know, like middle school or something, grade 3 or 4, I don't know, somewhere grade 5, somewhere in there. I was still pretty young. But at some point I was like, I have this idea that there's this other thing in my subconscious, and I've been told over and over and over that you have no access to your subconscious, but I kind of have a little bit of access to my subconscious. What if I just got rid of all this stuff I've been taught and just try, like just see what's. So I spent a lot of time just unlearning all the stuff I'd been taught, and I found that, oh, if I think in my subconscious, I get access to this brain code, and I can think way better, like way better than before, like 1,000 times better. Like I can, like things I could have vague ideas about. Now I can like work with the information and do things and figure things out. It's really cool when you can figure out how to use brain code, and you're born with this stuff. You know, it's already built in. You just have to not be taught not to use it. That would be the coolest thing if people were taught to use their brain code. I wonder what I can do with my kids to get them to use brain code more. Because it's a super advantageous thing. I have ESPN too. Well, hey there. What's up, Tomaters? Like programming in assembling language versus something like BASIC. Yeah, assembly language, machine code, yeah. Brain code is the same as daydreaming on a problem and come up with an answer. Kind of, but you can daydream like not in brain code at all, but that is kind of in the right direction. And one of the things, I mean, I could go on for hours about all the cool things you can do with brain code. But one of the real cool things that you just remind me of, let me see what you said again. Daydreaming on a problem and come up with an answer. Yeah. So one of the things you can do when you're thinking in brain code is you can put a question in your head, and as long as you don't force an answer, you can just it's sort of like waiting for an answer, but you're not really waiting. It's like the rules are different. Like this is what I'm saying about like having to unlearn everything I'd learned. Like they're just different rules when you're thinking of brain code. But anyway, if you can think of a question while you're thinking in brain code, and then it's almost like you just leave this blank open space, and then this answer just comes in. And if you try to force an answer to come in, it doesn't work. You just have to let it happen, and you'll get answers to things that like you did not think were not that you didn't think, but you've been told are impossible. Like it's impossible. There's no way anyone could know this. There's no way to get answers about this. There's no way to learn this stuff. But if you do that, you can get answers to things that people won't even believe. I mean, I could sit here and tell you things that I've learned through this, and you just be like, all right, well, that doesn't mean anything. You can be full of crap. And another thing about brain code is there's no ego in it. Like I literally don't care if anyone believes anything I say about brain code or anything that I say I can do with brain code. Like it just doesn't matter. The rules are totally different. There's no need to prove yourself, which is just a nice thing to get away from. Let's see, but yeah, coming up with answers to problems is I mean, brain code is like made for solving problems. How's the dredging going? Will you make the island higher? So I have been dredging a little. I haven't in a few days though, because I was just busy doing other stuff. Oh, I need a root canal, by the way, one of my teeth. So I got this like tooth infection like a year ago, but I was just too wrapped up in disastrous life events to deal with it. So for the last year, I've had like this infection in my gums. And for the first month or so, I kind of felt like sick all the time. But then I guess my body just got used to fighting it all the time. So, you know, the last few months, I mean, most of the year, I mean, every once in a while, I'll kind of feel it and feel a little sick, but it's, you know, it's like my body can fight it off now. So anyway, I'm going to get a root canal on this infected tooth. I mean, you can't see anything from the outside, but the guy took an x-ray and I could feel it. It's like a little tender. Not as much as it was at the beginning. It was like way worse. But anyway, I'm hoping that when the guy fixes my tooth, then my metabolism will be like, yo, we can relax now, man. And then I'll get all this extra energy. That'll be great. Anyway, I'm getting that fixed. And I also got sick the last couple days because someone had to go to work to make money, even though he was sick, and got like 40 different people sick. And oh God, I hate that. Like Like if you get sick, don't go to work. Don't go around people. Just let the sickness die in yourself. You don't have to. It's such a selfish thing to do, to be like, I want to get my paycheck today, so I'm just going to get like 100 other people sick and whatever. Um, Funny thing is, like, there's a reasonable chance we're all going to die of some disease because we keep taking for granted that nothing's really going to kill us. Take a bit of medicine, you're fine. Anyway, but I haven't done any dredging in a few days, and I've been cutting wood in the jungle, and yeah, I haven't done a bunch of dredging, but I did some before, and I'll do some more. But I really, really want to get this second floor up. Now that's kind of become top priority, other than getting my tooth fixed, which I'll do sometime this week. I got to go to the dentist. Yay! Oh, root canal. Question: do you have any advice for people who bounce between projects without completing most of them? Don't be such a... All right, I'm just kidding. Let's see. Bounce between projects without completing most of them. This is a problem that a lot of people have. I'm trying to think of when I've had this kind of problem. Well, I have a little bit of this problem right now where I've started, tiling the roof, and then something got in the way, and then I just haven't gotten back to it. So I'm working on something else, but I'm still making progress on a lot of things and getting things done. So I don't know if it really counts. I don't know. You know what? Just pick something. Just pick something and say, or do this. Here's what you do. You say, okay, the next project I start, I am finishing, no matter what. And decide that before you start the project. And just make it an absolute in your head. And before you decide to start the project, think about being at the different points of the project. So say you want to build a car. And building this car takes a month. So it might take 2 if things don't go right. And think about the different points of building this car. Think, okay, I'm going to get, the first week's going to be a piece of cake because I'm going to be excited. The second week, I'm going to be a little more tired, but I got to just keep doing it. And the third week, maybe I'll need to take a break in there. But if I take a break, I can't start something else. I have to stay on this project and come back to this. And think about getting all the way to the end and just put yourself through the entire process mentally before you start it. And then once you start, there is no going on to something else. If you have to take a break, but don't start something else. Stick to the thing. Take care of the things you have to do, if you have a job or whatever, or you need to mow the lawn, like do the stuff you have to do in the day, of course. But when you have time to do the thing, whatever project is you're doing, that's the only thing you're doing. You're not starting something else. You're only doing that. And you might have to really force yourself to go through it. But if you start building up the habit of completing projects, it gets much easier. It just becomes an automatic thing. Like, of course I'm going to finish this project. I wouldn't stop it. And then you don't have to be so strict about it. You can have maybe 2 or 3 different projects going at once, and that you're not going to add more projects until you finish one of these, and then you can add another project, and you can be working on a reasonable number of things at a time. So next project you start, just say I'm absolutely finishing it no matter what, and really think about that before you start the project. Because once you take the first step on it, that's it. You're locked in. But make sure you're locked in. Lock yourself in. It kind of reminds me of. This isn't the best analogy, but this is something I used to do a lot, where I would force myself to not be able to back out. And the example that always comes to mind is, it was like the end of high school, and it was the end of the track and field season. And I just won the last big race, so now it's like I don't have to be ready for any track meets or anything for a while. So I don't have to be on this strict training schedule or anything. And I was like, you know what? I want to run 50 miles because I was about 50 miles from home. And I was like, I'm going to run home. I'm going to run 50 miles home. So I left the place where I was and I locked the door behind me. And it was about, I don't know, 8 or 9 in the morning. And to get back into this place, I had to wait for someone else to come show up after work, like 6 in the evening. So at that point, I'd locked myself out of the only place I could be. And my choices were either sit down and wait, or, find something to do, but basically just hang around waiting, or run the friggin' 50 miles and get there. And I wasn't going to sit around all day, so I ran the whole 50 miles. There was no coming back. I ran the 50 miles. And I brought a few bucks with me so I could stop to get drinks every, 20 miles or so. And I could barely walk the next day, but it was pretty awesome. And I've done that with a lot of different things. Like when I dug the road, this is actually an even better example, because this was a multi-day, like a month and a half kind of thing. When I dug a road to my place in Vermont, there was no road there, and I kind of figured out an area where I could make a 1.5 mile road, but it was going to be an incredible amount of work because it was not a road. It was like driving along 45-degree angles and up things and down gullies. I had to do a lot of landscaping. So what I did was, first I just, tested things out for a week and just, did the easy part of the road first. And then when I got to the hard part, I was like, all right, now I have to decide, am I doing this or not? And I was like, all right, I'm doing it. So I got my truck and drove it into the road as far as I could go. And this was a road that was barely as wide as my truck. I could barely fit through. So at that point, my truck is on the road facing the direction where it can't continue unless I keep going, digging my way through the road. The only other option is to back out along this precarious road and retreat, which would not have been easy, first of all, just in terms of driving. And second, it would just the thought of backing out. God, it's humiliating. Even though I'm the only person there, I'd be like, oh. Anyway, so my truck was in there. I spent a month and a half digging the road, always bringing my truck up to where I finished that day, and leaving myself no way to turn around and go back. The only way I could get out was to back out, which would have been super dangerous. And yeah, just locked myself into finishing. And I finished it. Oh, I just heard my 3D printer finishing, by the way. It's printing robot parts, which is all the time now. Question, before your parents die, would you want to take care of them? ChatGPT is just a young baby. What? That's before your parents die, would you want to take care of them? I'm probably not going to take care of my parents. We've just gone our separate ways, And ChatGPT is just a young baby. I don't know. Are you familiar with Ayn Rand, the author? Jaimie, you would adore Atlas Shrugged. I think also hello. Yeah, I love that Atlas Shrugged. That was cool. Well, I was going to say it's a cool book. I never read the book though, but I saw the movie. It was like a TV movie. There were 3 parts, and every part had half the budget of the previous part. So by the third one, it was so low budget, it was pretty funny. But I liked the story. Yeah, it was cool. Let's see, Tomaters, what's up? Me too. I wake up screaming. I find American measurements are the only thing I can think of in real terms and can't think in metric at all. Well, you should be able to think about your own brain code measurements, regardless of what measurements are out there. Jeff, if you really wanted to do things in metric, you could do things in metric. You are totally capable of learning that. Just get a meter stick, put it on the wall somewhere, look at it once in a while, you realize, oh, a centimeter is about that much, 10 centimeters, a meter. Dude, the math with metric is super easy compared to feet and inches. Your Lego gear looks, oh my God, the Lego gear. I am so, hold on. Look at them all. Yeah, I'm just printing a bunch. There's not that many in there yet, but hey, get out of the way. Let me see the gears. Anyway, yeah, these are amazing. If anyone doesn't know, this is related to my last video I just uploaded. And so I was looking around on the internet, and my kids are always bugging me to print stuff out, just download something and print it. And I was like, what would be cool? Lego gears. And so yeah, sure enough, you go on Thingiverse, someone has uploaded Lego gears. The big one's pretty good. And then, the medium-sized one is pretty good. The small one, though, was no better than the original crappy, flimsy Lego one. I can't believe no one has done this before. Someone must have done this before. It's basically just the small Lego gear with a solid circle at each end to make it just so much stronger than it was before, than the original ones. Yeah, I'm really excited about those. Now I'm thinking, I'm kind of thinking about printing more Lego, like custom Lego parts to make special Lego things. Like when I was a kid, I was always making like walking machines and stuff with Lego, and I was always like melting parts together with a lighter, which don't do that. And like cutting parts up and kind of making my own custom parts and like taping these together and like melting them and gluing them, whatever. Now I have a 3D printer. I could like make any shaped Lego custom parts. Like I can make a spider tank with Lego if I 3D print a few custom parts, which I think I probably have to do actually after I finish this robot. I mean, I have stuff to do, but yeah, in my free time, I think I kind of have to do some more Lego stuff. These came out so good. Let me get on here. So, like the precision is so nice. Like it slides on pretty easily, but it's like snug enough that it stays. Oh, it's so good. I had to print out a few different ones to get the size just right. But once I got the size just right, oh man, so good. Anyway, yeah, there's like 3D printers are fun, man. This reminds me of that autistic dude who remembers the Guinness Book of World Records for most numbers in pi by remembering a shape that looks like the group of bones in the wrist. I see. Using mnemonic devices. Sounds like Elon Musk is a brain code thinker. That would explain the stuttering also and the good ideas. Yeah, I mean, I don't know Elon Musk, but I've seen him talk at times. Yeah, it seems like he does that too, and you can kind of tell, like you were saying, like he'll kind of get stuck doing that, kind of being like let me translate my real ideas in my brain into English. Just hold on a second. Okay, now I can say it. Yeah, totally. Oh, greetings from the Sub-Zero North. I've got a nice fire going and I finished my engine rebuild. That's great. Waiting for warmer temps for first start. Now on to other projects. Oh, you got to wait till it gets warm to start it up? Yeah, I guess that does make sense. Is anyone building a steam engine? I kind of want to build a steam engine. Okay, what's the deal with that bucket full of Zapper tennis rackets? The entire family goes hunting. Seems fun. Someone gave me those Zapper tennis rackets. You're supposed to whack mosquitoes with them, but we just don't really have that many mosquitoes here. I mean, there's the occasional mosquito when you smack it, but I don't know. They're just in a bucket. Hey, from Vermont, Andrew. What's going on, man? I'm not a fast verbal thinker. I think that's forced me to tap into at least a bit of brain coding. Well, I mean, there's a good chance that, maybe you are just thinking in brain code. Yeah, it's funny. When I was growing up, I was always not scolded. What's the word? Like berated. I was crapped on for not being a good verbal communicator. And, I learned to communicate, But I was always like, anytime I can put my ideas into the English language and communicate them well, they either have to be already very well worked out or whittled down to something that I can communicate. Like I'll take like some really cool thing I'm thinking about, whittle it down to just some kind of cool bits, then I can communicate it. And then I would get all this positive feedback, and I was always like, why am I getting so much positive feedback when I've taken my great idea and turned it like into so much less? Which it's one of the problems with school. I noticed your freehand milling skills with chainsaw a while back. It's impressive. Why, thank you. I gotta say, I'm kind of impressed with my chainsaw skills too. When I first started chainsawing boards, I did it years ago in Alaska, but I was using like, some equipment. But when I was here, I was like, well, let me just try freehand. Like, supposedly people can do that, right? And I cut a few boards and I was like, holy crap. Like, you can totally do this. And I don't mean to say that I'm amazing. It's just like a human being can do that. It's really cool. And one of the things I always think about in those sort of situations is when I ran track and field in high school, like when I first started, I had no idea what I was doing or whatever. I had a really awesome high school coach, and he said, all right, you're going to tell me what your time is. You're going to run a 400 right now. And when I started, my 400 repeats were not very good. He's like, you're going to run a 64. And when you're done, I want you to tell me exactly the time you ran. I was like, what do you mean? I went down to the 10th of a second. I'm like, oh, all right. So I do the run and come back, and I don't know, 64 and a half. And be like, well, 64.2, not bad. But he always made me guess, and it was amazing. Within a matter of weeks, I could tell him the time I ran within a 10th of a second, like, yeah. And I was just blown away by that. Like, even down to like hundredths of a second. Like, he could say, we could go to a track, and he could say, okay, run 600 meters in a minute, 28 seconds and a half. And I would be like dead on. And I would finish, and he'd be like, what was your time? And I'd be like, well, I sped up a little bit there, and I went a minute 28.42. And he'd be like, well, I got 4:26, but close enough. It's really amazing, like what a human being can do that people don't generally understand how amazing humans are. Like when you actually try. And learning from when I did track and field and just learning that skill of being able to tell a time down to the 10th of a second easily. It's just opened my mind to the possibility that I might be able to do anything. Like, there's all kinds of stuff I wouldn't have tried in the past if that didn't happen. Because I thought, there's no way. And then it turned out to be pretty easy. So now I try all kinds of stuff that I think there's no way. And I'm like, well, maybe there's a way. And then all kinds of stuff works. Like freehand cutting boards with a chainsaw. Yeah, you can totally do it. Anyway, freehand milling chainsaw, it's impressive. What things are you focused on while making cuts? Space from saw edge to bore. Okay, when I'm cutting a log, so say the log is down here. It's down on the ground, but let's say the log. Okay, let's say my arm is the log. I'll make the first cut. First I'll drag a line with the chainsaw, and that first line, a lot of times I'll just eyeball it. I'll just kind of drag the chainsaw back and look down and just try to keep it straight. And I can do that pretty well, or I'll do a chalk line, but a lot of times I just eyeball it. But anyway, once I've got that line, then I'll cut that first board off. And what I keep doing is I keep looking down the cut that I've already made and make sure that's lined up with the part of the chainsaw bar. So I'll like look straight down the cut I've already made, and that lines up my eye, directly with the cut, and make sure that's also lined up with the bar of my chainsaw and then just go down. Now that's a little tricky because the cut you've already made, it gets full of sawdust and stuff. So I might have to clean it out a few times. But once I've got that first slab off, then I've got a flat side here, right? And then when I'm making the next cut, I just look along that flat side. And that, I mean, dust doesn't get caught in there or anything. So I just look along that flat side and then look along the chainsaw bar and just make sure they're parallel. And they're close enough together. Like it's pretty easy to tell if they're off or not. And yeah, I'll just keep an eye on that. And a lot of it is also just like the first cut I make, I'll just hold the chainsaw in what feels like the most natural position. Like I'll just kind of let it fall where it goes. So it picks its own angle. And then I'll just try to keep that. I'll try to, you know, so even if I don't look for a few seconds, like it's basically staying where it is because that's where I'm holding it. And if my line ends up off a little bit, I just change the grip of this hand to change the center of gravity, or not center of gravity, change where my hand is above the center of gravity. So if I move my hand over this way, it tips the chain saw a little bit that way. If I move my hand that way, it tips it that way a little. Like it's easy to kind of like make little adjustments like that. And then just keep yourself, like once you start going, just keep in the same position and just, it's not as hard as I thought it was going to be. So if you ever want to try doing that, just start going. Don't worry about messing up a few boards. That's actually one of the important things. Don't worry about messing up because that can make you tense and change you. Just go with it, you know? Are you going to build a gymnasium on the second floor? No, that's on the third floor, which I'm also super excited about. Wait. I used to daydream a lot at school in lessons. I still daydream and come up with great ideas and inventions. That's awesome, Robotron. I love your name. Yeah, and we're told not to daydream, but man, daydreaming is like, that's like connection to your imagination, man. You do that daydreaming. Daydream and get those ideas. And you know, you can daydream in negative ways, of course, if he's getting this downhill spiral and just think about negative things all the time. But if you're daydreaming about positive things, it can really have a good effect on just everything you do. Okay, about sawmill chainsaw. You spend a lot of time in your video working the exit or end of the log with a saw before continuing your rip. Did you file your own ripping blade or did you buy one? I don't have a ripping, not blade, chain. I don't have a ripping chain for my chainsaw. I just have the standard one it came with. You know, if I got a ripping one, I should be able to cut faster. But working the exit or end of the log with a saw before continuing your rip. Working the exit, like when I was finished. I don't know. Are you going to build a gymnasium? Okay. Tooth pain. Oh, are you aware of clove oil? It instantly stops transcendent tooth nerve pain. Very good to have. When the pain builds, apply with finger and you get reprieve. Not a cure, just a pain. Well, I don't really care about pain. When things hurt, I'm just like, that's just telling me what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, when my tooth was really hurting the first month, I was just like, well, I'm not going to do anything about it right now. So this is just ignore it. Although when I go in there, I'm definitely going to let them numb it. My cold frame, Styrocrete inspired by you, have weathered negative 30-degree nights. I made a double layer Mylar blanket on a roll to lash down over lid and would-be trash, and it's worked great. That's awesome. All right, what time is it here? I'm gonna have to go pretty soon because I gotta go pick up some chainsaw stuff, actually. Salt water is electrolytic. Using electrolysis method, you can separate the hydrogen and oxygen from the salt water to fuel items on your island. Just sharing an idea. That is true. I have played around with electrolysis a little. Loved the video you just uploaded, cutting mahogany. If you have an extra piece left after doing your floor, I'd buy a slab or two, about 12 to 14 feet, 2 inches thick, and 14 to 24 wide. Do you live around here? 14 to 24 wide. Okay, one of the tricky things about the mahogany wood, I mean, a lot of trees are like this, but mahogany is definitely one of them. So say the tree grows like this. The wood is always trying to pull itself away from the center. So any boards you cut right out of the center of the log, which will be the widest boards, they'll have a tendency to split, like to try to get apart from each other at the ends. And that's why when I was cutting the log I was cutting, you saw it was cut down the middle in half, and then I put the two halves down, and then I cut boards out of those. Because if I didn't put that cut down the middle, it would have cracked down the middle anyway, and the crack is not going to be straight. So it's better to just cut it down the middle, and that's the crack, and then I can cut the boards. But if you live around here and you're saying you want a board, just email me, and I don't know, see what I can do. Jaimie, were you in kindergarten as a kid? If so, how old were you put there? I don't know. I was in the normal school deal. 5, 4. I remember I was in pre-kindergarten and then kindergarten. I don't know what age I was put in. I spent a lot of time in school. It was too much. If you don't already know about them, Precious Plastic is an open source community I think you'd love. I do know about them. I don't know that much about them though. I love Jaimie. You're like a real life cartoon, the way my brain views the world. Love the Lego mini gears, by the way. I'm so excited about the Lego gears. Yeah, I think I have to print more Lego stuff. Join the metric world and wonder where that 10 millimeter socket went. Oh, the 10 millimeter socket. Oh God, why don't they just put 5 of those in every one? What is it with the 10 millimeters? I don't know. Ever heard of a wind hex? I don't know. Lego company may be interested in the spider tank kit. Well, maybe. I would totally do one. I mean, I have a lot of cool, like little inventions that would work with Lego. Some would need a couple custom parts, but a lot of them, not much. What's brain code? Sorry, I just tuned in. You gotta go back to the beginning, man. Hello from England. Good to see your printer is working nicely. Just saw your Lego cog video. Yeah, the printer's awesome. The only problem I've had with the printer is things weren't sticking that well for a little bit. And then I started wiping it off with alcohol. I just cleaned it off really, really well. And then things were sticking well again. And now whenever I get parts off, I really, really try hard to not touch the print bed at all, so I don't get any finger grease or anything on it. And now I maybe clean it with alcohol once every other day, just kind of as a precaution. But yeah, everything sticks well. I think it was just, grease from my fingers was getting on the print bed and making things not stick. Other than that, I mean, yeah, I'm so impressed with that 3D printer. Like the gears for that robot, I could not have printed those out with any of the previous 3D printers I've had. I mean, those were also years ago. So for tooth pain, nothing better than Splanthys, aka toothache plant. Oh, I like the Adventure Builder ring you printed. I'd like to have one made of silver. I have one made of bronze. Yeah, I got it made at what's that place called? Oh crap, Shapeways. I think it's Shapeways. It was like $10 or something, or maybe a little more. I freehand chainsaw resaw lots. No big deal. Props to you, as most think I'm crazy. Yeah, man. Once you, it's like once you realize that it's not really that hard to freehand chainsaw, like you kind of gotta just dive right into it. But pretty soon you'll be like, hey, this isn't that hard. Oh, you can throw away so much equipment. You don't have to drag all this crap with you. You can just your chainsaw, man. Maybe something to make a straight line, which is kind of nice because it makes your first cut easier. But yeah, it's just getting rid of all that extraneous stuff is so nice, especially if you're going like out into the woods to do it. I need to go to bed. Good night, Nala Solis. Um, Chainsaw Milling, thanks for sharing the tips. Sighting down bar, natural center of gravity, very helpful. Yeah, I mean, the most useful thing is just keeping enough bar visible that you can just line it up with either your cut or the edge of the previous cut, and it's pretty easy to stay straight. And you know, the first few cuts you do when you're just learning, it might be a little strenuous to keep focusing on that, but yeah, you know, it's like learning anything. You know, like you get on a bike, it feels like you're gonna fall off, but then a couple days later, it's like, yeah, I can drive around, no problem. You know, like your brain just kind of like learns a bunch of it, and it does a lot of it automatically. I've always been afraid to say anything to you since you so clearly have your stuff together that anything I could say would not be helpful. But I've been following since you started the giant robot. Cool, man. That high ceiling steeple building looks awesome. Oh, I do love this building. This building is super cool. It's Captain Skellebones. Oh, I love you guys' names. Jaimie, do you have a method for setting goals? Ooh, method for setting goals. I don't know if I have so much a method. I guess I probably do have a method. I don't really think of it as a method, but okay, when I want to set a goal, I mean, it's kind of funny because right now I'm in the middle of so many goals, but I have to think back to when I was like setting everything in motion. Yeah, okay, so when I'm at a point where I'm like kind of in a crossroads in my life, or you know, I've got a bunch of things done, and it's like, okay, now I've got to set goals. I'll think to myself, what is the most freaking unbelievably amazing thing that could happen? And then what could reasonably happen? And then can I get those to meet somewhere as far over to the amazingly awesome things as possible? Like what's the most awesome thing I could possibly do and possibly have a chance to do? And I'll kind of try to pick the goal that I'm not currently able to do. Like something that's currently impossible for me. So I'm going to have to grow to be able to accomplish that goal. And I think that's one of the mistakes people make a lot when they make their goals, is they think it's going to be easier to pick an easier goal that they know they can do. The problem is then you get bored. But if you pick a goal that you think maybe I can grow enough to meet that goal, then it's like exciting. It's like you get to be the hero. Like you get to go on this journey where it's like, you don't even know if you can make it, but you got to become a better person. You got to become stronger and better. And then, you know, that can really keep your interest in a goal. So whenever I'm trying to think of goals to make, I'll say, you know, what's the most awesome thing I could possibly do, and try to keep it a little bit outside of what I reasonably think I could do, and then just go for it. And sometimes I fall a little short, but it's still pretty awesome. And sometimes I get like halfway there and I'm like, I've already gained the skills to do everything in this goal. Let me make it even harder, more amazing. Sometimes I overshoot the goal and do way better than I was planning. But yeah, I always try to aim for something that I think is going to be super amazing. That's outside of what I can currently do. And then once I start on the goal, and this is mostly a habit I've just built up over time, is like I stick to that goal. Like I'm going to do it. Like even if I get to a point where I have to put it aside for a while, I'm not going to forget about it. Like I'm getting back to it. And even if I can't do this one part, I'm working on this other part, and I try to have a few different goals going at once so that I always have something to do, you know, in different weather circumstances, or if I'm like waiting for a part for something and I can't work on that, I have something else to do. So I try to keep a couple different goals going for different working circumstances. But yeah, try to pick something that you really think is going to be awesome, that's going to hold your attention, and is going to challenge you. because that's what will keep you interested. And then sometimes I'll write them down. I don't usually, but sometimes I'll actually write down the goals. And I usually do that if I have a bunch of things going on at once and I'm kind of like mentally losing track, then I'll write down the goals and I can wake up in the morning and look at my list and say, okay, I'm working on that one, you know? Let's see. Spilanthes is also an antibiotic if needed. Hey, wanted to give you an update about my island. Water tower is complete and I'm digging a canal. Where are you? I just started a YouTube channel January 1st. Any advice? Oh, can you send me a link to your YouTube channel? That sounds great, man. A YouTube channel. Well, I mean, I'm probably not the best person to ask for advice about a YouTube channel. You know, I mean, it depends what you want. Like, I don't really try to get lots of views or anything. If you want to get lots of views, definitely ask someone else. The way I do my YouTube channel is I try to make videos that will be useful to someone. And then, you know, let the chips fall where they may. And if you want to do that, I recommend doing that. I think it's a great way to do it. You know, it might not be the best way to rely on money, but it's definitely rewarding. Like, it feels good to do something that I think is going to be useful to some people. So yeah, I mean, I would just not worry about views and not worry about comments too much. Make the videos that you think would be useful to you, that you would want to watch. And, you know, that's a good starting point. And then, you know, do that for a while and see how it's going. Yeah, don't get too worried about views though. I still can't find a hole. Wait, just move. I still can't find a hole punch the same size as the Lego stud. You gotta make one, man. Yes, I do live close to you. Just missed you at Bill's dock on the 10th. Oh, well, yeah, send me an email. Yeah, tell me where you are and I'll see what I have left. What will you do when you are old and frail? You mean when I'm dead? I don't know, nothing. I'll just be rotting in the ground, worm food. You're awesome. Thank you for sharing your entire journey with us. The best part is your tenacity and having no fear of perceived failure. You're an inspiration. Well, thank you, cryptocurrency. Mr. Landfill just sent me a link, or he posted a link. I don't know if I can get that off here. Thanks for asking. My YouTube channel is Sailing Senorita. Cool. All right, I think I'm at the end of comments, which is good because I need to go get some chainsaw stuff right now from the store. And my 3D printer's done. I can start that. No, I don't have time. I gotta get something. Okay, everyone have an excellent day, and I hope I have explained brain code sufficiently. You know, here's a look at my awesome ceiling. Oh, I love it up there. Yeah, this is all just a bunch of scaffolding that won't be there. That was so I could get up to the roof. That was the scaffolding I climbed on to be able to build the roof. From this is the 3rd floor joist, although that's just a temporary one. That's going to come out. I just made that so I could build the roof. But from there up to the roof, it's like 15 feet. It's like 2 stories. Maybe like a short 2 stories. Anyway, all right. What was that question? Oh, it'd be great to see you. You're awesome. Okay, I better get out of here and go to the store. Everyone have a great day.